Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Breer, and welcome to episode 41 of the 11FS FinTech Insider Breakfast Show, brought to you this morning by our good friends over at MyTech. If you didn't know, MyTech delivers bank-grade identity verification with the highest possible assurance levels, massively reducing risk, fraud, and costs. Today, we've got a really special show ahead for you. We have the Deputy Mayor of London for Business, Rajesh Agrawal. We're going to be talking about all the things that are happening for London businesses, how they're responding to the crisis, the local initiatives that are there to help them, and hear Rajesh's views on what the new normal will look like for London. Thank you so much for joining us, Rajesh. Thanks for getting up early.
Thank you very much, David. Delighted to be on your show again.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. It feels like a long time, doesn't it? Since last time we were actually able to be in the same office together, weren't we? But hopefully next time, hey.
Absolutely.
For anybody who doesn't know, tell us a little bit more about what your background is, and also what does it mean to be the Deputy Mayor of London for Business?
Well, as well as being Deputy Mayor of London for Business, I'm also the Chair of London and Partners, which is London's official promotional agency. So a big part of my job is to promote London worldwide. I'm like a traveling salesman, traveling around the world, selling London, bringing foreign investment into London, supporting London businesses, bringing more tourists to London, so promoting London for tourism, for higher education, for business, but also overall the economic development of London.
Fantastic, and that's no small job at the moment, really, is it? In terms of everything that's happening, and I guess before that, I think you probably had possibly one of the busiest schedules that I've ever seen of anybody, given the amount of events and talks and different things that you're doing. Your background, as our listeners and viewers will know before, you're pretty much steeped in fintech background, right? Your heritage is pretty strong when it comes to these side of things.
I am. It's quite interesting, actually. I got into fintech long before it was called fintech and long before it was so cool as it is now. So I started a payments business in 2005. I still remember when I just started with a laptop, me and my co-founder. And it actually seems like I'm back into the same mode because I'm sitting here in my loft right now with a folding table, which I'm using as my desk. So it started the business then in 2005, and it went on to become one of the fastest growing companies in the country. And actually, it's the whole industry has developed so much over a period of time. It's great to see the whole journey of fintech in London and globally, really, how it has made such a big difference.
Yeah, well, it's definitely sort of maturing now, isn't it? Which is fantastic to see. I mean, you say you're working from home now. Other than the desk sort of modifications, how are you finding this period of working at home?
It is quite a big change, isn't it? I mean, it's a big change for all of us. There are good and the bad of working from home. The good part is it saves a lot of time commuting. I live in Zone 5, so traveling into central London and traveling sort of from event to event as well as I go around takes a lot of time in commuting. So that is saved. So that's good. But also equally, having some sort of time with the family, because both the kids are at home, they were homeschooled, and frankly, anybody who has taught kids at home knows how difficult it is. It's one of the toughest jobs. I'm probably better at sticking to my deputy mayoral job than trying to be a teacher to my two girls. But it's good spending a little bit of time with them. But equally, I do miss the social element of working. As much as this technology is amazing and we are able to talk to people from around the world just through the screens and so on. But I do miss the social element of work. So can't wait to get back whenever the time is right.
I was joking before we got on live. I mean, I think this is the first time I've seen you not wear a suit. So clearly you're relaxing a little. You're dressing down a little bit more. Do you think much of this will be sort of taken forward? I don't mean the dress down policy. I mean working from home and everything that goes with it. Do you think we've learned some lessons that'll be taken forward?
Yeah, I think it will change drastically the way we work, the way more and more people have discovered that things were possible with things are possible with technology now, which were not possible before. And those people, technology has existed for a long time through this video calling and
Mm.
Skype and FaceTime and Zoom and so on, but for the first time people are really using it to their full advantage. They're socializing over it, they're doing business over it. And in fact, in London and Partners, which I'm the chairman of, we organize trade missions. So we have recently organized virtual trade missions. So we are taking the companies to New York and other places virtually and
Mm.
setting up meetings for them. So it's a completely new way of working. I think this whole lockdown has accelerated our adoption of technology, and it will have a long lasting impact. And I think we should also use this as an opportunity to reimagine not just the workplace but also the infrastructure around it, like transport, for example. I think more and more people would be using bikes, for example, or walking more than ever before, but also commuting only if they really need to, because now they've seen that with technology they can actually still meet people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think that's going to be a real challenge, isn't it, for London, when we start to increase numbers and people sort of coming back into the city to sort of get back into work. Transportation, I think, particularly, is going to be a real challenge. We've definitely got good infrastructure there, as you say, but I think with social distancing, it's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of challenges there, isn't there?
It is. I mean, there are a huge amount of challenges, without a doubt. This COVID-19 is the biggest health, social, and economic emergency that we have faced since the Second World War, really. And more than anything else, is the loss of life, which is clearly the most terrible impact that it has. And it is the reason we must do everything that we can to stop the transmission. And it's affecting businesses of all sizes, of all different sectors. Of course, some sectors are affected more than the others. I know of many businesses who are struggling to stay afloat because of this. So from City Hall, we are trying to do everything that we can to support London businesses and the economy. The mayor and I are fully determined to support businesses. And but equally, as much as business needs support, I'm also quite moved by the offers of help that we have received from businesses to help other businesses and to public as well.
Mm.
It's quite amazing, quite amazing. So we are just now working with all different stakeholders, including TFL, which will play a very key role in getting people back to work. So our tube is the sort of lifeline of London, and so on. So we are just urging Londoners still to work from home. Um, where they can. Don't use public transport unless you really have to. Um, and we just have to be very, very careful not to spread the virus.
Yeah, I agree. It's difficult. I mean, there's lots of different problems that various different types of businesses are facing, aren't they? I mean, there's different industries, as you say. Some can work from home reasonably indefinitely, can't they? But I guess for those who are more on not quite the front line with nurses or medical professions, but the leisure industry, it's going to be really, really difficult for those guys. I know the government is doing a lot in terms of the furlough process and everything, but I'd say a lot of those guys are really sort of hanging on. I mean, how much longer do you think those guys can go with sort of staying closed for? Because it's quite a challenge, I guess.
It is very, very tough for them, and as an entrepreneur, I can feel it. I mean, it's
Mm.
hard work of people's for years and years. People have worked to establish their business, and now everything is at risk. And it's also livelihood. Lives are important. Livelihoods are very important as well. We did a survey recently, and it was, I mean, perhaps not unexpectedly, but really sadly, we heard that almost a quarter of the businesses don't think that they'll survive more than 2 months of lockdown, and
Wow.
almost 75% say that their revenues have been negatively impacted. and almost a third said that they'll need a rent relief of some sort, because, as you know, in London rents are high, and it's tends to be a major cost for any of the businesses. I mean, it's people cost and also the premises cost are the two big costs. And we really welcome. And it's fantastic that the government has launched so many different programs to support, etc. But the fact is that there are still businesses which are falling through the cracks of this. And we estimate that there are about 30,000 struggling London businesses that will really miss out on this coronavirus business support grants, because they've set up a blanket criteria, and they've linked it to the business rates they pay. um, and it's just like a one size fits all kind of thing, and it's just not working out, and a lot of businesses are falling through the cracks. And the the extension of the furlough scheme up until October is very, very welcomed. I think businesses need it, and we must provide it for as long as businesses really need it. It's also great news that those businesses who are now able to take some people back on are able to do so on a part-time basis. That's good news, because there were many businesses, because otherwise it was a binary, wasn't it? Either you furlough them or not furlough them. There wasn't a part-time option. So now there is that option. So we'll continue to lobby the government. We have done a huge amount of lobbying in the last few weeks to the government of all these things. So we are doing what we can from City Hall, but also lobbying the central government to do their bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It feels like a lot of people are really, like you say, trying to ensure that no type of business really sort of falls through those cracks. Because, I mean, there's lots of, an SME, SMBs are so broad in what they do and so broad in terms of what their needs will be. So, I mean, as you say, it's going to be really interesting to see with property prices, particularly, whether that has a kind of a long-lasting effect on it. I know from 11FS's perspective, we're with Story, and they've been fantastic. They've deferred rent for a long period of time. They're doing everything they can to support all of the businesses that are within their premises. So I think many of those organisations sort of see the long-term benefit of really sort of being collaborative with those businesses, because I mean, if the businesses are not there, then they're not going to get paid anything, are they? So do you think it might have a more long-lasting effect on property costs, though? Because I guess with more competition and with a deflation from a price perspective, it actually might allow more businesses potentially to take up offices in London.
Well, I think first of all, there's the immediate, imminent threat of businesses going under because of the costs of the rent. And you might know that TfL, the Transport for London, which comes under the mayor's office, is also a big landlord, and actually has got mostly small businesses as tenants in the stations and the parades outside stations you must have seen, etc. So literally a few thousand tenants. So immediately the first thing we did was, for 3 months, essentially give 100% rent relief to these small businesses. And then across London and actually beyond, there are many small businesses who operate through under the bridge, in the sort of in the arches, railway arches. Now we don't own that anymore because that was sold some time ago. But the mayor then wrote to that company, and that company, and I really appreciate that they've done the same thing. So for 3 months, no rent, etc. So that's some immediate relief is required, but there are longer term implications without doubt.
Yeah, no, I agree.
People have now discovered that they can actually work remotely more than they previously thought that they could. So it would have long term implications on the commercial real estate market, I would have thought.
You guys are doing a lot, and City Hall are supporting SMBs particularly. I mean, there's loads of different initiatives that I was sort of reading through. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Growth Hub? Because there's a lot happening through that.
Yeah, Growth Hub is, Growth Hub we originally actually started a couple of years ago when I first started as deputy mayor, because I wanted to bring all the business support information in one place. So it was when it started first, it was just an online platform. But then we quickly realized that we need some offline support too. So we established 5 physical centers across London providing business support. And now with this coronavirus, that is proving to be really effective, because that online resource, we've added a new portal to it, on the information around sort of COVID-19, and so on. Over 25,000 businesses have already visited and are taking advantage of that. There is also, via sort of video calling and phone calls, we are putting businesses directly in touch with advisors, and there are about 800 sort of one-to-one sessions that have taken place already through that. But equally, when this whole pandemic started, a lot of employees were worried about their rights. Somebody who is on a visa, their visa is about to expire, or whether they're if they are self-isolating, whether the employer should be paying for their salaries, etc. So all those things, all that information was put in one place. But apart from Growth Hub, the favorite initiative that we have started amongst many, which I think is quite innovative, is that the businesses were facing a big challenge in terms of cash flow, small businesses. So think of your local barber or your local curry house or a local pub. They are facing big cash flow issue. So we launched something called Pay It Forward London, and essentially the businesses can sign up, and then it's a crowdfunding platform. Businesses can sign up, then they can market it to their customers. Customers can then buy vouchers uh, for products or services which the businesses can deliver in the future. So it's fantastic. So this sort of pre-selling, so it helps the local business immediately with the cash flow, but also it gives an opportunity for Londoners to support their local business. So I think I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. And as you say, I think a lot of people within local communities are really fond of those local shops that they're doing. So they really look forward to supporting that sort of local environment, don't they? And I think it's initiatives like that that actually been what you would want, because I guess, as you say, it allows people then to really pass forward and as you say, pay it forward to sort of do good, doesn't it?
Well, it's moving quite quickly. It was only launched quite recently, but we have had about 150 businesses signed up, many more in pipeline. Over 150,000 pounds have been raised through that. I mean,
Fantastic.
these are really small businesses we are talking, and it makes a huge amount of difference to them. And so it's gaining a lot of traction. So I urge anybody who runs a small business to sign up on that.
Yeah. So really interesting questions for you, Rajesh, over on LinkedIn. So we'll sort of go through a few of these. We're probably not going to be able to get through all of them given the time, but let's have a look at a few of them. So David Riley asks, are we looking at the things that, I mean, you guys must be constantly looking globally at what other cities are doing. You guys and the bridges that you've established with other cities, how much do you look at other cities and the impact that they're having?
Oh, very constantly. So we've got our sort of international team in City Hall, but equally London and partners, whose job it is to promote London worldwide, have got offices in 12 cities around the world. They've got 5 offices in the US, in China, and India, and in Paris, and in Berlin, and so on. So we are constantly in touch with all the cities. In fact, the mayor hosted an online roundtable with the mayors of other cities as well. We are constantly exchanging notes, but at the same time, I mean, the fact is that some mayoralties around the world, like the mayor of New York, for example, or mayor of Tokyo, has got a lot more power than the mayor of London, for example. So that varies, but sharing the notes is quite important. It also helps us in lobbying the central government for which, for anything that we might not have the power for. So we are constantly in touch, sharing knowledge on how we are doing, but learning from what they are doing as well.
Yeah, there's lots of different. I mean, the environments are always very different, aren't they, in terms of like say New York or Tokyo or wherever. But it's always good to understand what other people are doing. Another question for you over on LinkedIn from Andrew Banks, who works at Google. The question was: the restaurant model will struggle to work with the social distancing setup. Rent and staff costs will make it really, really tough for these guys. I mean, the restaurant scene is one of the most important essences of a diverse capital. And I mean, in London, we have there's everything, right? There's literally every different type of restaurateur out there to provide. I mean, how can we keep these guys going through this period? Do you think it's things like the pay it forward scheme, or do you think there's more that the government can be doing to support these organizations?
I think it's a combination of things, frankly. I mean, London's food scene has improved so much, thankfully, in the last 20 years since I've been in this country, by the way. We are very proud of, the diversity of cuisine that we have in London. I think we need to do a number of things. So, first of all, the government has already done 1 year of business rate relief. So that's good news. For smaller businesses, there's also a grant scheme. So they've already received money in grants. And using this sort of delivery mechanism, etc., quite a few businesses are still doing that. Furlough scheme, I think huge numbers of restaurants are actually taking advantage of furlough scheme. But our diversity in the cuisine comes from the diversity of the staff that we have in our great city. Diversity is one of the greatest strengths of our city, and that's why I think, again, making it easier to hire staff and making it easier for the international people to come in for the visas, etc. I think those are some of the other things we could potentially do. But restaurants and hospitality sector is hugely important, and they are the hardest hit of all sectors. So we must do everything to support them.
I think I mean, bizarrely, one of the very thin silver linings is I don't think I've said the word Brexit for at least 2 months. So, I mean, as you say, the policies that we need in place for visas to ensure that one of the greatest things about London is the talent magnet that it is, and keeping that talent here, I think, of all different types, not just in high flying technology, but like you say, restaurateurs. It's what makes London really a great place to be, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, talent is the most important thing. I mean, regardless of the industry, actually, whoever I speak to in any sector, they say they are in London and they thrive in London because of the amazing talent London has got. It's one of the greatest strengths we have, and we must keep London open.
I think there's another question here for you from Chris Skinner. How do you see the future of London fintech scene? Do you see it expanding or shrinking during this period? I know obviously you and the mayor have done a lot in terms of the investment and the support of the community from a fintech perspective. How do you see the future for fintech in London?
I think the future is quite bright. London is the global sort of, or certainly the European fintech capital. Very close second in the world, and it will continue to thrive. But again, I'll come back to the talent point. One of the reasons why fintech industry has done so well is because the amazing talent that we have in London. If you look at some of the biggest fintech companies in London, a huge percentage of them were set up by people who came from around the world. You look at the TransferWise and the Revoluts and so on. So having the right talent is quite important. Having the right regulations, very important. And FCA has been fantastic so far. I hope it continues, and especially post Brexit, I think it's quite important that we keep that open and keep it very innovation focused. Regulations. Brexit is a bit of a setback for London's fintech industry, but I'm sure they'll find ways, and I've spoken to a number of companies, they've already sort of found ways around it, because that's what entrepreneurship is all about. But it was a bit of a sort of setback because they were selling their services to across Europe, and now they've got additional burden of additional licenses and so on. But if you look at last 1 year, we have seen huge amount of investment, record investment in fintech, and I know that it will continue, and London will continue to be that hub for innovation in fintech and other sectors.
Fantastic. Okay, folks, we're heading to the top of the hour now, so we probably better wrap up. But thank you so much for joining us, Rajesh. Really, really appreciate you taking the time. Where can people find out a little bit more about what you're up to and everything that's happening in the Mayor's office and London and Partners?
Well, again, I'm quite active on social media, LinkedIn, and other places. So there's constant activity there. We've also got a business bulletin, which you can sign up on london.gov.uk. So definitely do sign up, because that keeps you updated in terms of what we are doing from City Hall. Also, just look out for all the social media. Mayor of London Twitter account, for example. Again, there's a lot of information that comes on there. London and Partners does a huge number of activities. So there are many things, but London Growth Hub is quite important. So growthhub.london, that's the URL for Growth Hub, which is the business support website. I think it's quite important. Paid Forward, if you want to sign up for that, it's paidforward.london. Again, the URL, do sign up if you think your business can benefit. And if you don't think you've got a business that can benefit, you can nominate your local business and support them through that.
Fantastic. Well, that's really great to see initiatives taking place, and as similar to you, I think there's a real bright future ahead for fintech and London much more broadly. I think London has a great character of really getting over very significant events and coming out stronger. So hopefully that's what we see in the coming months. Eh?
Absolutely. I mean, look, I mean, London is one of the greatest cities in the world. It's a very resilient city, and in the past we have faced huge challenges, and we'll do so again. I mean, there is a huge amount of uncertainty about how our economy and our city will look when we emerge from this crisis. But the mayor and I are very clear that London's dynamic and diverse economy will weather the storm of these unprecedented times. And look, I mean, I'll just one final thing to say is, I came to this country 17 years ago with almost nothing, and I still remember when I first came here. I'd never been on a plane before, never been outside India before, and I came here. This city gave me the opportunity not just to build a successful fintech business, but I ended up being the deputy mayor of this city. So that's what London is all about. It's the city of opportunities, and we must continue to thrive.
Here, completely agree. Thank you so much for joining us, Rajesh. Really appreciate you taking the time. All right, guys, tomorrow we're going to be joined by Ryan Garner, who is a principal customer and product lead at 11FS. He's going to be talking about the new research that has just gone out, looking at the jobs to be done for and cultural insights in terms of what US business owners really, really need right now. Join us, same place, same time tomorrow. Stay safe, guys, and see you tomorrow. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.